Hello, loud teachers. Welcome to Learning is Not Quiet presents commas and conjunctions. Today, I'm going to talk about all the ways that I teach commas and conjunctions in my classroom. I'm going to talk about the strengths of the Teachers Pay Teachers products I have surrounding this, as well as some pitfalls you might want to avoid. I'm also going to suggest some strategies throughout this video on how to differentiate it to meet all of the needs of all of your learners. So with that, let's begin. If you're watching this video, it's likely because you are interested in purchasing or have already purchased this commas and conjunctions package, this distance learning commas and conjunctions, or this comma task cards. Please note that these comma task cards are included in this paper version, but not in the distance learning version, which is why it's a little bit cheaper. Also note that this version includes a PowerPoint that you can project in front of your students and is a little bit more robust, which is why it's a tiny bit more expensive. So that's kind of an overview of these products. As always, make sure you reach out to me on Teachers Pay Teachers. Search for Learning is Not Quiet, and I am more than happy to answer your questions either about purchasing or how to use this in your classroom or any problems that you might be having. I am here for you. So with that, I'm going to start with these task cards, and I'm going to really focus on how I use task cards. The traditional way, and task cards are really common in classrooms right now, the traditional way that people use them is they put them at one desk at a station during like a literacy circles, and the kids flip over the card and then they answer it on their sheet. That's fine. It's a little bit engaging. A little bit more engaging than a worksheet, but I really want to push the envelope on this. So what I do is I actually take those task cards. This is kind of what they look like, and I put them throughout my classroom. Now, these are not the task cards that I'm using in this product, but this is the picture I could find of my students actually doing this exercise. And so I put those task cards all throughout the classroom. You'll see here that I have them on the backs of chairs. I have them on the sink. I have them on the globe. I have them on the cabinets. I have them in the library, all of these places because, and you'll also notice that students have clipboards, right? So I pass out the clipboards. They have a sheet of loose leaf paper. They number for however many task cards there are, and then they go on a hunt. My rules with this, a couple pitfalls to avoid is number one, you want to make sure that you have projected a timer free on Google, and that helps students budget their time so that they're able to finish all of the questions and search for them before the clock runs out. Second suggestion is you need to establish the rule that everyone remain quiet. As you see in this picture, my students are pretty engaged. They're pretty quiet. There are two boys in the bottom left who appear to be talking to each other. I can almost guarantee that after I took this picture, they both lost points or had to clip down. Whatever your classroom management strategy is, you need to make sure that students are really focusing on the task cards and not using this as a socialization period. Final thing that you want to keep in mind is I usually allow one student, or if I have a really big class, because my class sizes are usually in like the 32 range, I have two students at a station. And again, not allowed to talk to each other, just two students looking at one task card. And that really helps you not have a situation where 6 kids are bunching up and they're all looking at it. And the rule is whoever got there first got there first. If more than one person got there, rock, paper, scissors it out. So those are just some classroom management strategies. The kids love it. It's, even though this is a level 1 kind of thinking activity, it is necessary for them to really practice those commas over and over again. And it is more engaging, more entertaining than doing like a worksheet. So that's my spiel on task cards and how to use this. I would use this as a cumulative activity any day during the week when I had a little bit of extra time. For this particular package, maybe on days like 2 or 3. Not day 1, because you want to make sure that you've taught the different concepts of commas before you jump in, unless you want to use it as a pre and post assessment, which is totally fabulous. So now let's get into the reading strategies bundle part. I do my reading strategies as a 5-day set. And I like to think of reading strategies as like a drawer in our brain, or grammar as a drawer in our brain. And how we usually teach grammar, how we usually teach reading is we do worksheet, we assess. We do worksheet, we assess. We give direct instruction, we assess. And my goal is to attach other experiences, other emotions, other memories with these grammar concepts, with these reading strategies, so that students have a more rounded and scaffolded vision of what this means to them. So there's not going to be like worksheet, assess in this product. There are going to be some elements like that, but it's not going to be all of that. What I really want to do is provide that well-roundedness. So sometimes when teachers open the product, they get scared because the first product looks super easy, but just know it gets harder and harder because it's scaffolded throughout the week. This is meant to be done on a 5-day school week. Obviously, we have snow days, we have parent-teacher conferences, we have professional development days. You don't always get 5 days in your week. That's fine. Just adjust and make it work for you. The first day is like an introduction activity. It doesn't have a lot of rigor or reading or writing. What it does is it really gets students to think about the activity in a different way, again, building that drawer. The second day, that's the day I do a lot of direct instruction, and that involves things like interactive notebooks, coloring pages, that kind of stuff. Days 3 and 4 are similar. There's some kind of more kind of traditional teaching with a worksheet and answers. And then finally, day 5 is a Broadway musical Mania, in which students practice what they've learned using a fabulous song from Broadway. So that's kind of how the week works out. Note that there's a whole video explaining in more detail how to do Broadway musical Mania and a whole extra product on that as well. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. So beginning with this product, on day 1, I would do this activity, A World Without Punctuation. And here it says, write a story. It can be fictional, or it could be as simple as how your day is going. You are not allowed to use any punctuation, capitalization, or the words and, but, or. When you are done, exchange papers with a partner. Have them read it to you out loud and answer the reflection questions on the bottom. So this is to get students, especially those that have a little bit more developed grammar, to think about what life would be like without that and to see why this grammar is necessary. Because a lot of students think this is like frivolous and tedious, and it gets them kind of invested in the concept, right? If it's really hard to read something without grammar, it helps us understand that the point of grammar isn't to have mean 5th grade teachers mark points off of your essays. The point of grammar is to make your writing more understandable. And so that's kind of the buy-in. A great connection to this is if you read Wonder or have the book Wonder in your classroom, the whole Justin section does not use capital letters. And so I pass that around and show students, how that explains the character development. And they often are outraged and say, well, if he doesn't use capital letters, then I shouldn't have to use capital letters. And that's when I emphasize that we need to learn the rules before we break them. So that's just kind of a great outside literature connection and extension. I love that book. So please make sure you read it at some point. If you have not done so already, it is totally worth it. Okay, so that's day 1. Day 2, this is my coloring sheet. I really believe in coloring sheets because it attaches a visual for our visual learners, and it really, for me especially, it's easier to remember things that are in color. I recognize that not all students are that way. I used to make my coloring pages mandatory. Now I just assign them as extra credit. I pass them out at the beginning of the week, and then I allow students to turn them in at their choosing as extra credit. I also have put these in the back of the classroom as like an I'm finished activity, as something you can grab when you're done or take home, and again, turn it in for extra credit. So I don't usually use a lot of class time on the physical coloring pages because I want to really use every second that we have. The interactive notebook that we do on day 2 is about comma rules. And again, there's a PowerPoint that goes with this in the paper version. Slides are available in the distance learning version right there on the Google files. So the comma rules, cut out the examples from the next page, add commas, and then paste them to the comma rule. So different commas are used in series or dates or comma buddies. Comma buddies is a term that I use because I like to say the 2 commas are friends and then cancel out whatever's in the middle. So if you can read the sentence and delete whatever's between your 2 comma buddies, then that's where the comma goes. After I repeat that 100 times throughout the school year, I get to the end and kids are like, oh yeah, comma buddies, and they really get it. So that's why I really recommend using the comma buddies analogy. Feel free to change it if it doesn't work for you. So day 3, now we're doing add a comma. And this is a color by code. And what students do, if the comma is in the right place, they color it pink. If it doesn't need a comma, they color it blue. If no, the comma is in the right place, they color it green. And if it needs a comma, it becomes yellow. So again, very low thinking activity that is made more fun with coloring and thinking about things in a more complex way. And I'm now realizing that this is the interactive notebook page that I have. I think this is actually the next interactive notebook. So what you do here is you cut the sentence apart at the comma, and there are directions on this page. Why I didn't put them in the video was my bad. And you try to flip it around to check if the sentence makes sense. This also is really helpful to get students to visualize where commas go and why they're important. So there are 2 interactive notebooks in this week. I know that's annoying, but my opinion on interactive notebooks is they should not take more than 5 to 10 minutes. I do not like the interactive notebooks that sometimes you see on Teachers Pay Teachers that are all foldy and involve lots of coloring, because for me, I want it to not be an uncreative art project. I want it to be a tactile experience, building that drawer, and meaningful and not take too much time. So if this is taking more than 5 to 10 minutes, try to speed that up because that's about the amount of time it's supposed to take. The way I cut down on the amount of time is I actually have my students race to see who can cut out all the pieces first and have their hands folded in their desk with all the trash thrown out. That really is motivating, and it gets away from the people who are like perfectionists and need all the corners to be perfectly straight and take up your time. So that's my little spiel on interactive notebooks. You see here, so the original sentence is, if you knew what I know, you wouldn't make that choice. Now see how I cut it apart and switched it? You wouldn't make that choice if you knew what I know. That makes sense. So the comma is in the right spot. Never confuse having a to-do list with having a life. With having a life, never confuse having a to-do list. Again, grammar is important because it makes it understandable. I also say that if it sounds like Yoda is saying it, that's not a place that the comma goes. So those are different ways that I teach that. It's a very tactile experience. And I will say my husband is brilliant and wonderful and amazing, but when I check his writing, I'm always so annoyed because he never learned how to use commas correctly in school and is like afraid to use them in his adult writing. And as an editor, I see this in people too. They like are scared to use commas. And so the point of this product is to get students, and students will eventually become adults, to be super comfortable with commas and to not skip over it and hope that they'll learn it or pass by without commas later. And I actually had my husband do this activity and he became much more confident with commas after doing it. So it works for adults and children. Day 4, I would do day 3 or day 4, excuse me. Day 3, I would do the read it, commas, and conjunctions. Again, this is more of a passage. We're adding in the commas. Next one, where should the comma go? Read each of the sentences below, after which of the following words should it go, etc., etc. So the reason we put commas and conjunctions together is because conjunctions are like the glue of the sentence, and especially with coordinating conjunctions, I have my class go, coordinating conjunctions, whoosh, so that they remember to put a comma there. And it really helps students understand that that's where the comma goes, is after the coordinating conjunction, or before the coordinating conjunction, excuse me. Finally, we have our Broadway musical Mania connection. This one is I Know It's Today from Shrek the Musical. Note, I have included these lyrics here, and this is very important. There is one line, and most of my 5th grade, I still feel like this song is totally amazing because it really shows a dynamic character, and it's like, it's awesome for teaching grammar, but it's also awesome for teaching character traits, and that you can show this character changing throughout time. So awesome song. But there is one line in it that says, and his manly hose, which could be an inappropriate reference. I actually didn't catch it the first 20 times I listened to it, but I was playing this song one day to my class, and I saw a bunch of boys snickering, and I thought about it to myself, and I was like, I'm going to change those lyrics. So in your lyric version, it says manly pose, which is so quick that the kids never pick up on it. But that's just kind of my little pitfall that I have learned to avoid and adjusted for this product. So, you know, choose and censor as you see wise. So this is I Know It's Today, and it's 3 versions of Fiona as she's growing up in this tower. If you've ever seen Shrek, one of my favorite movies of all time. How I do Broadway musical Mania is I have students read it by themselves first, completely just kind of getting the gist. The second time through, I have them look for great examples of word choice, and this really helps develop their vocabulary and word choice. It's so awesome. And then the next time through, I have them visualize. So in this case, I would have them draw a picture of the 3 different Fionas or what's going on. The next time, I have them focus on something that we're learning that week. So in this case, it's highlight all the conjunctions in the song, add commas where they're all of the commas were removed, add them back in the correct spots. And then after this, I have students independently do this more standardized traditional test taking question, and I take this for a grade. Everything else throughout the week, I pretty much take for participation. That's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this product, be sure to check out many, many more grammar and reading strategy products that I have in my classroom, as well as a bundle with all of these included for 50% off. I also have a whole very successful product of just Broadway musicals. Like I said, this bundle is 50% off. I also have book clubs and book club bundles to help you practice and put these different strategies to the test. Thank you so much for teaching the next generation of readers and writers. You are the true heroes, and I hope you have a fabulous day. Adios.